I was holding my dying father-in-law's hand when my mother-in-law grabbed my wrist and physically dragged me out of the room, telling me I wasn't allowed to be alone with him ever again. I married into this family 5 years ago, and from the moment my mother-in-law first saw me, something in her face changed. It wasn't disapproval, it was fear. She called me a gold digger, but that never made sense because my husband Henry was broke when we met. There was no money to dig for. She hated me before I ever opened my mouth, and I never understood why. My father-in-law was the only one who treated me like family. He welcomed me from the first dinner, and whenever his wife started in on me, he would shut her down with this look I could never quite read. He was the only reason I stayed. So when he got diagnosed, I was the one who showed up. I drove him to appointments, held the bucket when chemo made him sick, and slept in the chair next to his hospital bed while my mother-in-law visited for 20 minutes at a time and complained about the parking. The sicker he got, the more desperate she became to keep me away from him. First, she convinced the family I shouldn't be in the will. That made no sense because I had never asked for anything, but nobody questioned her. Then she told the nurses I wasn't authorized to be there, called me some woman who kept showing up, and actually got me banned from his room for 2 days. When he woke up and demanded to know where I was, I watched her face and saw something flash across it that looked almost like panic. She went after my husband next. I don't know what she said to Henry, but he came home one night and asked me to step back from his father's care because it was causing too much stress on the family. I told him his father needed someone who actually showed up. He looked at me like I was being selfish, like I was the problem, and I realized she had gotten to him completely. After that, she stopped pretending to have reasons. She created a group chat with everyone except me and scheduled visits around times I wouldn't be there. She told Henry I was only caring for his father to secure my inheritance, and my own husband didn't say a word in my defense. I started paying closer attention to her, trying to figure out what I had done to make this woman hate me so much. Every time I caught her watching me, she would look away fast, like she was afraid of what I might see. One afternoon, I was showing my father-in-law pictures on my phone, telling him stories about my childhood and my parents, and I mentioned my father's name. She was standing in the doorway. I didn't know she was there until I heard her inhale sharply. When I turned around, she was white as a sheet. She left without saying a word, and that night she called Henry and told him I needed to be kept away from his father permanently. I kept showing up anyway. Something was wrong with this woman, something that went deeper than jealousy or control, and I was starting to feel like I was close to understanding what it was. Then one night, the hospital called and said we needed to come now. Everyone gathered in that small room, his wife, both sons, me standing in the corner like an intruder. My mother-in-law looked at me with something beyond hatred and told Henry to make me leave. She said this was a moment for real family only. My father-in-law opened his eyes. The room went silent. His voice was weak but clear, and he said my name. He asked me to come closer, and I pushed past all of them to take his hand. My mother-in-law started to protest, but he cut her off. I'm not dying with your secret. He turned to his oldest son, my brother-in-law, and his face softened. I love you. You know that, but you need to know the truth. 40 years ago, he told us, his wife had an affair with a man she met at a work conference. She got pregnant. His oldest son was not biologically his. The room was completely frozen. My brother-in-law looked like he'd been shot, but my father-in-law wasn't done. He turned to me and squeezed my hand. I'm sorry. I should have told you the moment you walked into this family. Then he said the name of the man his wife had slept with. It was my father's name. My father who had been dead for 3 years. My father who I had told stories about at family dinners while my mother-in-law sat there in silence. My legs nearly gave out. She started screaming for him to stop, but he kept going. My brother-in-law was my half-brother. We shared the same father. Then he looked directly at his wife. 5 years you've been punishing this girl for what you did. Nobody moved. My mother-in-law collapsed into a chair, sobbing. My brother-in-law walked out without a word. Henry just stared at his mother like everything she had ever told him was now suspect. I stayed right where I was, holding my father-in-law's hand. He squeezed my fingers weakly and told me he was proud to have me in his family. His eyes closed and his grip loosened. I held his hand until there was nothing left to hold.